Recruiting and retaining commission-based sales reps is really challenging. We all know that. But today I'm going to give you 3 tips that will literally increase your recruiting and retention results by 2x. And you can do this week. And those 3 things are going to be relevant to compensation, developing a vision that actually high performers want to be a part of, and developing advancement paths inside of that vision so that the vision that you've pitched the reps on and future opportunities that they want to be a part of is objective to them. If you're not familiar with Sales Recruiting University, we're a business that recruits over 1,000 commission-based sales reps per month. We specialize in recruiting, onboarding, and ultimately retaining commission-based sales reps. So make sure to subscribe to get future videos. So the first topic is relevant to compensation, and this is incredibly important in terms of the recruiting and the retention process. And again, if you have an all-commission opportunity with maybe no inbound lead generation, no training pay, no draw, no salary, then this can actually help you increase your recruiting and your retention results literally by 2x overnight. So first thing that you need to do is map out what it looks like from a timeline perspective to ramp up into your opportunity. And for the sake of today's illustration, I'm going to assume that we have an opportunity that's 6 figures, just called $100K per year as the bare minimum expectation annually, which of course is roughly $8K per month. And we're reverse engineering the details based on what we're communicating in the recruiting and ultimately onboarding process as well. Meaning that when you're in the recruiting process, you're going to be communicating different income levels. This is the bare minimum that we expect, the top 10%, top 5%, top 1% of what reps will make in this industry and or company. But then we want to reverse engineer what it looks like to ramp up into the bare minimums to set expectations for reps both in the recruiting and onboarding process. So although we're going to lead this back to compensation, this topic is actually relevant to so many other details in the recruiting, onboarding, and even management process. So again, let's assume that we have a $100K per year bare minimum income opportunity, which is $8K per month. I want to hypothetically think through what it looks like to ramp up into this opportunity from a monthly perspective. Now for you, ramp up into quotas, probably 1, 2, 3, maybe up to 6, 12 months if you have a highly technical B2B opportunity. But for most commission-based sales organizations, they're going to be in the 2, 3, 4 month range. In this example, I'm going to give you a 4-month range. So what I mean by that is we have a $100K income opportunity, and we're going to assume it takes 1, 2, 3, 4 months to ramp up into that bare minimum income of $8K per month. So again, I think through the bare minimum income expectations and think about the conservative timeline from a monthly perspective, then I start to reverse engineer what that looks like from an income standpoint. So for the sake of simplicity, let's just call this 8K month 4, 6K month 3, 4K month 2, and 2K month 1, meaning that if a rep comes on board and they do the bare minimums that we lay out for them in the first, in this example, 4 months, then they're going to make at least $2,000 a month 1, $4,000 a month 2, $6,000 a month 3, and $8,000 a month 4. And what I'm doing in the recruiting process is I'm giving them absolute clarity on what it looks like to truly ramp up into the position. That's kind of the sacrifice phase. If they love the leader, the industry, the company, the nature of the compensation plan, advancement opportunities into sales leadership, etc., they need to have clarity on what it looks like to ramp up into the role. So those are the first couple steps that I do: 2K, 4K, 6K, 8K, and again, your numbers are going to be different, but this should ultimately illustrate what you need to do for yourself. After I have a general understanding of what the income is going to look like monthly and the timeline associated with ramping up into the bare minimums, then I want to start to think through the activities that are required week to week through that entire ramp up period to ensure that there's absolute clarity ramping up into the 8K per month range. So I go back to month 1 and I go, okay, in our opportunity with the nature of our compensation plan, although I'm thinking about this in general income ranges, if a rep were to come on board and make at least 2K per month, which we think is the bare minimum expectation, what are they doing actually weekly, weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4, to accomplish that? So if they come on weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, what did they actually execute within those 4 weeks from an activity and production perspective to ensure they at least make 2K? And you ultimately do the same thing throughout the entire process, whatever the timeline is for you. So in months 2, I'm going to make 4K, so I need to think through weeks 5, 6, 7, and 8. What do they need to do weeks 5, 6, 7, and 8 to make sure they at least make 4K? What do they need to do in weeks 9, 10, 11, and 12 to make sure they at least make 6K, and 13, 14, 15, and 16 through the entire 4-month ramp up to ensure that they at least make that 8K. So if you have experience building commission-based sales teams, or really any sales teams, you can probably see how this is actually going to be something really beneficial to multiple areas, both in the recruiting, onboarding, and bleeding into the management process. Meaning that in the recruiting process, if you're absolutely clear on what it looks like to ramp up into this opportunity that you're recruiting into, then that's going to build trust in the recruiting process, but not cause any confusion, meaning that if you don't have clarity in the recruiting process and a rep gets into onboarding and they didn't understand the nuances of what they actually need to do to ramp up into 8K, well, that may cause confusion. They may even feel deceived, and that's going to hurt your retention rates, which is ultimately what we don't want. But this roadmap is beneficial in the recruiting process. It's also beneficial to illustrate again in the onboarding process, because you want reps to get to the end result of what they want, which is the bare minimum 8K in this example. And it's all about clarity, expectations, and making sure that they have a path to know what to do. Now, how this relates to activity-based training pay, which is ultimately the first tip of this video, After you understand exactly what a rep needs to do weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, through months 1, 3, 6, whatever the timeline is for you, then you ultimately add additional bonuses every week or every month on top of your compensation plan to improve the income opportunity as the rep ramps up into the income that they want. Meaning that in this example, if a rep committed to this opportunity, obviously they're not too interested in the 2K, 4K, 6K, but they're at a bare minimum interested in 8K, maybe more. And our whole goal is to get them to commit and to get through that initial 3 to 4 months in this example so that they stick. So if you can imagine doing this for your opportunity and then coming up with a monthly bonus at the end of weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4, months 3 and months 4, maybe that's 2K, 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 and 2K, meaning that there's an additional 8K in training pay, activity-based training pay as a rep comes on board. Well, what it does is it increases the volume and quality of reps you're able to get to commit to that 4-month ramp up and ultimately your sales opportunity, but you get the practical benefits of improving the compensation as they ramp up, which increases your retention rates. So you get to communicate training pay in the recruiting process, but it protects you financially because it's all tied to specific activity and production on top of compensation, meaning that if a rep doesn't do what you've laid out to be successful, then they're not going to get the additional funds, so your company is protected. We see this every day with new clients literally increase their retention rates by 2x overnight. And if there's an opportunity for you to do this for yourself, then I would highly recommend it. And that's tip 1 for the video. Tip 2 for the video is about your vision for growth and we'll say the next 3 years. Meaning that if the trajectory of your company in the next 3 years is really boring to the higher quality candidates in the marketplace, then you're going to have a challenging time converting higher quality reps into your sales model. Again, the best reps know how to identify the best opportunities in the marketplace and they have the most optionality, meaning that they can cherry pick opportunities based on what their actual skill set is. And in many cases, especially when reps are maybe self-generating their own leads, it can be really difficult to get higher quality reps to move forward with you. And you got to get creative in the recruiting process to ensure that you can actually convert reps. And again, those are things that we're covering today. And what's also great about the 3 tips today is they actually help retention as well. But your vision over the next 3 years or 2 years, 5 years, whatever you want to do, needs to actually be exciting to the marketplace. Let me tell you what I mean. So let's say that we had a small business owner come into Sales Recruiting University and they're like, I want to build a commission-based sales team. And our revenue goal is to get to 2 million next, right? So they're at 1 million and they want to get to 2 million. And let's just say for the sake of illustration, reps are managing the full A to Z sales cycle. It's all commission. So reps need to generate and close their own leads. It's not the most attractive opportunity on paper. Well, the problem is if you have a decent candidate come through that type of recruiting pipeline and they look at the opportunity that doesn't have a lot of financial security, they're going to go, well, there's no financial security. They don't have a large sales team. There's not that much proof. And on top of that, there's no growth opportunity. So I'm not going to even consider this role. And obviously that's the last thing that we want with the recruiting process, especially for the top candidates. And so in this hypothetical example, if a company came to me and they said, hey, we're at 1 million, we want to go to 2 million. I'd say, hey, I get that this is going to be exciting for you, but the reality is it's not exciting to anybody else. So I try to get them to think 2 to 3, 4 goals down the line so that we can ultimately reverse engineer the future org chart and understand what that larger organization is going to look like at scale, because we're recruiting into those future opportunities like leadership as the company grows, which will make sense here in a second. So if the company was at 1 million and they wanted to go to 2 million, I'd say, hey, that's too boring. We need to think a couple goals down the line. Just for the sake of this conversation, let's pretend you went to 2 million. John, would your next goal be to go to 5 million? Typically the answer is going to be yes. Okay, if we hit 5 million, would it be to go to 10 million? Okay, great. Then let's reverse engineer the sales team size of what's required to go from 1 to 10 million in this example so that we can actually recruit into something more exciting outside of just your day-to-day role. Because the nature of your actual day-to-day roles, it's not that sexy. So in this example, we have an organization that needs to go from 1 to 10 million. And just for the sake of illustration, let's just say it's 10 million that they need to scale. So in terms of creating the vision, I need to reverse engineer what the org chart's going to look like to go from 0 to 10 million. From there, I think through the bare minimum sales rep quota. In this example, let's just pretend it's 500K. So we have a 500K quota and we want to go to 10 million in sales. This is going to mean we need 20 sales reps doing the bare minimum 500K to actually get to an additional 10 million in revenue. Now, instead of thinking in terms and in recruiting in terms of just going from 1 to 2 million, which would only require me to have 2 reps, which again is not exciting to the marketplace, I'm developing a larger vision that's going to force me to think through the leadership structure in this sales org chart, which is naturally going to make the higher quality candidates want to join. So in this future org chart, which we're going to recruit into the future, again, recruit into the vision, I'm going to need 20 sales reps. So obviously those 20 sales reps in this hypothetical small business are not going to report to the owner. And therefore we're going to need some type of leadership structure to support the sales team of 20. Most sales managers are going to manage 5 to 10 reps. So for the sake of illustration, really just to drive this home, let's pretend we have a VP of sales and we have managers having 5 reps each. So we got sales manager 1, sales manager 2, sales manager 3, and we got 5 reps under these guys. And that is our team of 20. And what happens in the recruiting process is not only am I now recruiting into this role, which is always going to be the starting place, but I'm actually creating future opportunities of excitement here in this executive leadership role in the 4 sales management opportunities that will exist as we scale to $10 million in revenue over the next 3 years. So as an example, if I'm recruiting and you're in a group interview, and we like group interviews, you can learn more about our model later. But if I have a bunch of candidates in the group interview, really what that looks like from an interview or a pitch perspective is, hey, and what I love about this opportunity here is we have very specific plans to grow over the next 3 years. And let me tell you exactly what that looks like. Over the next 3 years, we're going to specifically add $10 million in revenue to the organization, and that's naturally going to require sales leadership to advance inside of this company. And what's unique about this company is we're not going to be hiring outside sales leadership, meaning that the only people that will get one of these 5 leadership opportunities that are opening up in the next 1 to 2, 3 years, those are only going to be people that start in the sales position first, meaning that for those of you in this group presentation today learning about our opportunity, industry, and company, I want you to note that there's actually 5 opportunities that exist. 4 in sales management, which looks like this from an income perspective, and an executive sales leadership role, which looks like this from an on-track earnings perspective, and also comes with XYZ and equity. And although for most of you, our core sales position will be enough for you, meaning that you'll love the day-to-day job experience and income, we do know that there are at least some people on this call that want to grow inside of an organization, meaning that you're looking to succeed in sales, but not stay in sales for the next 20 to 30 years, but really grow inside of an organization, potentially like into sales leadership. And ultimately what you're doing when you're scaling a commission-based sales team or recruiting commission-based sales reps into your model is you're figuring out the core things that you can be authentic about that actually convert higher volumes of quality people into the model. And the vision is one of the biggest examples of that. The truth is, I've served at some capacity 2,000 businesses in the last 12 and a half years helping small business owners scale commission-based sales teams. And I'll just be honest with you, 90% of the opportunities are not attractive at face value. And there needs to be unique things in your recruiting pitch that actually get higher volumes of quality people to say, yes, this is the right opportunity for me. Because just like in a sales process where your prospects are asking, why should I buy from you? The same thing is happening within your recruiting system. Meaning that if I'm a candidate and I come through your recruiting system, the question is why would I actually work for you? Why are you from a leadership perspective? Why is your company, your industry, your company story, your plans for growth in the future, your compensation package, onboarding, training, and management support, advancement opportunities into other roles like sales leadership, etc. Why are all those things actually unique enough and good enough for me to exclude everybody else and come work for you alone? And the answer is that you have to sell me on it. Now, if you have a 6-figure salary and lead opportunities and already a bunch of successful reps, there's not much to sell because the opportunity sells itself. But in 90% of commission-based sales opportunities, that's just not the reality. So at a very high level, when you're recruiting commission-based sales reps, you need the volume at the top end of the recruiting funnel. You need the system to take on the volume. You need to invest the leadership time into that system to get through the volume. And you need to be able to sell your opportunity at scale within that system. And of course, today we're talking about 3 tips that can help you with this challenge. So this is a huge one. You don't want to pass this up. If you haven't developed a vision that's actually exciting to the marketplace, then I would get that done today. And have fun with it. Think 3, 4, 5 goals down the line. And if you're not confident in recruiting and scaling because the vision is too large, reach out to us and we'll make the recruiting and onboarding of your commission-based sales reps 5 to 10 times easier on you. Our third and final tip for the day really kind of bleeds off the vision piece, and it's really just getting more granular with the opportunities that exist within that vision. So over here, we had leadership opportunities, sales rep to sales management to VP of sales. Now in context of this example, the company is going from 1 to 10 million, or really 0 to 10 million if you exclude the founder sales. So call it we're scaling 10 million, and the sales management opportunities are the closest opportunities that exist for the sales reps coming on board. So you would think through this process for you based on the core position that reps are advancing into. But what you do in this third tip is you think through, this is the vision and here's the opportunities for advancement within this vision, hypothetically setter to self-gen closer to closer who takes preset lead opportunities, closer to sales manager to VP of sales, whatever the nuances are, you want to think through those opportunities of advancement inside of that vision, and then you want to make that advancement path objective inside of the organization. And the most common one that we see is a small business owner that's somewhere in between 1 to 10 million, and they're still trapped in the sales department in some way, and they're looking to build a sales team of 5 to 10 reps and get a leader that they can delegate leadership responsibilities to, allowing them to step back and not have to manage the day-to-day sales operations. So I'll go through a quick sales management advancement example just to illustrate this last piece. But if you can imagine being in the recruiting process and selling your opportunity, the vision is one of the core things that does that. But once you get into a more formal one-on-one meeting, and really once you get into the management process, you need to have an objective path into those sales leadership or sales rep opportunities, whatever they are for you. Meaning that as a candidate, I do love that you have objective plans for growth in the next 3 years, but I want to know what that looks like day to day, week to week, month to month for me to actually come inside of that organization and earn that role. And so with these advancement opportunities, they need to be equal opportunities opportunities for everybody to really sell it. And again, we're talking about tips of recruiting and retention. So I'm selling the vision as an example in a group interview, and I'm really closing down the candidate with the objective advancement path in the one-on-one more formal interview. But they come inside of the organization, and that ends up being a retention and management tool for us. So a quick example of what I mean, let's say that we have a sales rep to sales management opportunity. Every organization is going to be a little bit different, but on average, we see that it takes a sales rep about 6 months to go into sales leadership if they meet all the qualifications. The qualifications are going to be slightly different for every opportunity, but this will paint a good enough picture for you to roll with this on your own. And again, if you want us to custom build out any of this for you and even manage your recruiting, just reach out to us. But in most cases, for a sales rep to move into sales management, they need to come on and perform in the very first 1 to 3 months at a bare minimum in a very specific way, meaning that they need to be a sales rep for at least 90 days, 3 months before I even consider them to transition into leadership. I need to see what they're like over at least 90 days to determine if it's worth my time and not risky to advance this person. So they would come on board and they need to accomplish very specific things in the first 3 months, like be a top 10% producer, participate in the management process and not be flaky, follow the sales system, be ethical in the sales process, be naturally building relationships with others on the team, align with the mission, vision, and core values of the company if you have that in place, and also just have a good relationship with the executive team who's ultimately going to work side by side with them if they advance into the sales management role. Those are commonly the things that you'll see in the requirements leading up into what we call the sales manager in training. So a rep would get recruited into a vision, they would understand the 6-month objective path into the sales management position for this example, and they would know as they come on board that they need to accomplish very specific things in the first 3 months to even be considered for next steps. Next steps meaning that if they accomplish the 4, 8, 6 things, whatever the number is, consistently over 3 months, that they've objectively earned the right to advance into the sales manager in training role. And over months 4, 5, and 6, you start to delegate leadership responsibilities and improve their compensation plan based on the sales leadership role as they take those responsibilities from you. So if I come on board and I'm your rep and I do all the things in months 3, well, I'm immediately a sales manager in training. Some type of additional compensation picks up because I'm stepping a little bit away from my personal sales, not completely yet, investing maybe 10 hours a week into supporting you as the core leader. And that progression just happens over the following 3 months, through months 4, 5, and 6. Meaning that in months 4, maybe I'm spending 10 hours, months 5, 20 hours a week, and months 6, 30 hours a week, meaning that when I go into month 7, I'm the 40 hours per week plus full-time sales manager. And I'm also getting the full benefits of the sales manager comp. And although this is a really nuanced topic, specifically taking a sales rep from sales leadership, I'll go through that in depth in another video. The main point for today in terms of a recruiting and retention tip is what helps lock down the recruit in the one-on-one interview is actually making the opportunity objective for advancement. So I know exactly what I need to do from an activity and production perspective, character perspective to earn the sales leadership role. And if I come on board and execute those things, then I get it fair and square. And you want to lay that out and be as specific as possible so that when you have reps in the recruiting process, you're not just pitching a vision, but you have tracks into these other roles within your organization. And because it's all on paper, it's objective, people actually believe what you're saying, which is the point. And not only does this help you on the recruiting side, but it proactively helps you on the retention side as well, meaning that if I'm a rep and I start in the sales rep position, but I'm really excited about the end result here, well, that's a carrot, that's an incentive for me to get through those initial 6 months, which is obviously going to be beneficial to the company. And although there's a lot more to recruiting commission-based sales reps, these are 3 really important tips that can literally increase your recruiting and retention results by 2x overnight if you implement them today. And that's activity-based training pay, developing a vision that actually high performers want to be a part of, and getting granular with that vision and creating advancement paths week by week, month by month into those roles within the vision. I hope this was helpful for you today. Again, make sure to subscribe, drop your comments, questions below, and we'll look forward to dropping the next video. Thank you.